just subscribed for 7 months.
Wow, 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 wow. Happy Halloween! Hello, Mikan! Hi! Magandang hapon. Okay, it's been a while. Hello! Happy Halloween! Happy Halloween! How are you? What are your plans for Halloween? I'm really nervous. Yeah, Halloween on Friday. All Saints Day, All Souls Day, Friday, Saturday, I think. This weekend. I'm just happy nakaabot ako sa Halloween stream. It's been a while. It's been a long time. Mananakot ng batang ayaw umuwi ng maaga. Are you really gonna do that? Do you have any... Sorry. Do you have any Halloween tradition that you're gonna do? This is gonna be your first Halloween knowing each other, right? Mananakot ng batang ayaw umuwi ng maaga. They really should go home early. Yeah! Here's to our first Halloween. And it's gonna be our first Christmas. And it's been years since I first started. Goodness gracious, Sashi! Hello, Sashi! Welcome. Happy Halloween. Are you doing Halloween stuff? Mika, aside from planning to scare kids on Halloween, how have you been? Yeah, what else was I gonna say? How's it going? Good. I was away for a while, so that is true. Goodness gracious indeed. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I'm stammering. What else? What else? So, Filipino-wise, we're not really big in Halloween here. Only like well-off people kinda celebrate Halloween. They go to this fancy trick or treats in fancy neighborhoods. We don't do that here. We automatically go Christmas mode once September hits. Celphy pie. My friend Magic Thick Raccoon, the one who also drew the Celphy to drew me as a pie. It was like an inside joke of me as different foods. So I have my pie and my cream friend. I have a cream friend beside me. Yeah, that was also the friend that introduced me to making eggs, Magic Thick Raccoon. They're still streaming, but they don't stream on Twitch anymore. They stream on YouTube. They're not a VTuber anymore. Thank you again, Mikan, for the resub. 7 months. Tangina, 7 months. What else? So this is like the last time. Well, I have a few more days to do more Halloween stuff, but I think this is the only time I can do Halloween thing. Maybe. And I was looking for a game. That's easy, quote unquote easy enough to stream, because I'm really stupid. Last Halloween, I played a game that Sashi requested. It was a visual novel thingy that I never got to finish. I'm sorry about that. So what else? So an update about me for all the time that I was gone. As some of you know, I've been taking my postgraduate studies. I'm taking a master's in business administration, aka MBA, and I've been taking it for like three semesters now, 3 terms now. I'm gonna have my fourth and final term in December. And the reason why I was MIA again for a long time, I did. Yeah, you did. Remember that visual novel? I forgot the name of the visual novel, man. Sorry. There's a group of people who got kidnapped and they have to survive, right? Rat, hello, Rat, my kitty Rat, hello. Happy Halloween, Rat. Are you doing anything spooky for Halloween? Hello. Yeah, so Sashi was a group of people who got kidnapped and they have to do stuff so that they can survive. It's basically a very bad TLDR of it. I was playing it and you were watching and you were trying to help me solve some of the puzzles, and I never got to finish it because it was so long. I'm not doing anything for Halloween, sadly. That's fine. Here in the Philippines, we don't really do Halloween stuff. But, I feel like as a VTuber, it's my obligation to do something spooky. I did not stream for the whole month of October. Although I was looking forward to it with some games planned ahead. But here we are. Has it really been a year? It's been a year, Sashi. It's been a year. We've been friends for a year or more now. So do you remember the name of the game, Sashi? You said it was one of your favorite games. It wasn't your favorite. I totally forgot the name of the game. It was long. It was a long title. Actually, wait. I'll be playing Repo with friends. I just remembered. Yo, let's go. It is a horror game. It counts as a horror game. It can be very spooky when the monsters come around. That's nice. Right? I think you're talking about Your Turn to Die. Exactly. Your Turn to Die. I still have my game file. I still have my save file. I still have the game downloaded. But yeah, it was a great game. Thank you for recommending that. For this Halloween, I'm not gonna be doing much. Just this one, A Place Forbidden. I gotta go have dinner. I'll be back. So no worries. Take your time. Have good noms. Eat well, my cute rat friend. Showway! Happy Halloween, my cute Charis. So many cute people in chat right now. Cuties. Hey, well, Shorty. Are you at work? I bet you're still at work. I bet you have meetings again. What day is it? Wednesday? Walang kinakilalang araw ang mga meetings ni Shorty. Man, I don't know how to shout out. Shout out, CRI. I miss your cutie voice. Nah. and yeah. Thank you for saying that my voice is cute, but you are the cutest. Good luck with work. Good luck with work. I look forward to seeing you on stream later. What else was I gonna say? Did you guys know that Shore streamed with a red scarf? Was it a red scarf? The other day and was so cute. She looked like Mikasa and she had this over the ear headphones. It looked like winter ear muffs and was so cute. How are you? I'm good. I'm alive. Sure. I don't know if you know, but I've been taking my MBA, Masters in Business Administration, and I've been gone for a while because I was taking I did my thesis proposal and I did the comprehensive exam for the MBA thingy. It was quite stressful, but I'm good. I made it. I don't know yet if I passed, but here we are. Mikasa, Ere! Sasageyo! Yuji hoodie failed. No! It was still very cute. The Mikasa was there. Mikasa winter outfit. Do you ever cosplay? Sure? I feel like you look very cute cosplaying any anime character that you want. You go, Celphy. Thank you so much. I was replying to DMs that I have not been replying to for the duration that I've been gone. And you guys know, some of you guys know Fairy, right? Big Fairy. And Fairy was like telling me, I was telling Fairy that I don't know yet if I passed, but I think I did okay. I hope I passed. And it was like, we are sure, I'm pretty sure that you did well. And I was like, that makes me kilig. I'm gonna tell you about this powerful Tagalog word called kilig. It means butterflies in your tummy. And what you just said made me kilig. You did when you was thin? What? For me, you still look thin. Pero right now, parang takot ako I attempt, ha? Na. Oh, of course, not forcing you, but if you ever feel like it, I think you look kind of skinny. You do have cute cheeks though, but don't look anything. You don't look even plus size. I would have loved to see that. Did you? Was there ever a time that you did cosplay on stream? Oh my god. Manok, your favorite word. Manok, sashi, manok, opashi. Manok means chicken. So what else we're gonna say? Because I was so nervous. I don't know if I'll be able to talk properly on stream. I have not streamed for a long time. I have not been talking properly to anybody for a long time. All I've been doing is hanging with my family, hanging with my dogs. Okay, masters. Yeah, I was doing masters. I did my thesis proposal. I did my comprehensive exams. Oh gee, how many dogs do you have? We have three. Sure. One is an older dog, a 13-year-old poodle named Bambino. That's a boy dog. And then I have an 8-year-old Maltipoo girl named Bonita. And our latest puppy is called Bea, and she's only 8 months. You have a dog too, right? Yep. Yeah, it was a dog on your stream too, right? Their names are so precious. Yeah, for some reason, my mama wanted Italian-sounding names that start with B. Nobody in our family has a name that starts with B. Because when we got our first dog, she had a crush on this Japanese actor who was playing a chef named Bambino. So we named our dog Bambino. And then after that, we were like, our next dog has to sound Italian as well. So it's Bonita. 5 dogs! Yeah, Bonita. Don't tell my dogs this. I love them all so much. But Bonita has a special place in my heart because she's such a sweet and gentle and chubby dog. I love her. Bambito, yeah. Bambino and Bonita and Bea. I don't have, I probably have pictures. I'm too lazy to bring them up, but sometimes, for people in chat, I've shown all 3 dogs at one point before. All of them, I love them so much. A dog, am I a dog man? I just love dog. Wait. But the flip, your house is like a shelter. That's only, yeah. Probably for sure 5 dogs. 3 dogs are, for me, 3 dogs is already too much. You know, you have to look after them, clean up after them, feed them, make sure all of them are given attention. And fun fact, all 3 of them sleeps with me and my mom in one bed. So my mom bought is Gambino childish? Gambino is indeed childish. I love Childish Gambino. What's the name of the actor behind Childish Gambino again? He definitely couldn't handle them alone. If you don't mind me asking, Shuri, who's helping you take care of them? Your parents, your family? Ala cutie, yes, dogs deserve to rest with us in our beds. You do too. So yes, I was saying, a few months ago, my mom and my brother, there you go. Do you have a favorite among your dogs? I mean, we all love them equally, but there has to be, I don't know, for me, it's Bonita. I just have a soft spot for her because she's the sweetest. Spooky Ookie Pumpkin. Paco, hello, Spooky Ookie Pumpkin. Oh, yeah, the king size bed. My mom recently bought a king size bed a few months ago so that it could accommodate her. So it's her, me, and my 3 dogs all in one bed. So that's like five creatures in one bed. And in turn, she gave me her queen size bed. So I have a bed in my room now. Yeah, what else? I have a notepad here of things I was planning to talk about. Ooh, masters. I've told you about my masters. Postgraduate studies. So for those who are not familiar with what the masteral is, it's basically like a short term course, usually about 1 to 2 years, where you take advanced. It's really more for like people with a little bit of experience in work, and you want to learn stuff that are more on the managerial side. If you want to start your own business, or you want to get a better promotion in work, you want to be more fit in that category. The dogs take up more space than you sometimes. Exactly. So like, sure, my mom goes to sleep very early. Like, she goes to sleep at 8 p.m. and takes the dogs with her. All 3 dogs, her and all 3 dogs are in the bed. My mom takes up very little space. When I go to sleep at like I'm gonna expose myself. I sleep at around 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And when I get there, I have no more space for myself because my mom takes up little space, but the dogs take up about 75% of the space. So I just have to, bulldoze my way to get some space in bed. I sometimes, if I'm able to move them, I move them. Or if not, I just lie on them and hope that they scoot over. So yeah, MBA, I'm taking that because it was a deal between me and my mom. After being jobless for such a long time and not being able to get a job, even though I've been applying for a lot of jobs, she was like, I'm gonna help you get into a school. I'm gonna pay for your tuition fee, but you have to promise me that after you graduate, you're going to apply for a job in the government. And deep inside, I was like, no, I just want to be a VTuber. But I was like, there's nothing I can do. I'm very dependent on her. Like, she feeds me and all that. So I was like, okay, I'll do the master's thing. But my time is running out, As I mentioned, this is my 3rd term. Final term next term, and after that I really have to get a job, so I'll be a NEET no more. And what else did I put in my notes? So yeah, I was really stressed about the capstone, the thesis proposal, and the comprehensive exam. For the thesis proposal, it's kinda scummy that don't get me wrong, the school where I'm taking my master's is quite a good university here in the Philippines. It's just that they advertise their MBA as a non-thesis MBA, but actually they do have a thesis and they just call it capstone. They call it a capstone, and I don't know why they made me take the comprehensive exam, although I still have like I'm still in the middle of this term and I still have another term to take. But on the other side, on the other end, it was good that I have already gotten over it, you know, para matapos na. Yay! Pip, 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 pip. Para matapos na. So like next term, I'm still gonna be a little bit busy, but more on the capstone side. Just the capstone, like interviewing people, analyzing stuff, doing the thesis defense. Hem. What else did I write in here? What else? Other than studying. Oh my god, thank you for censoring that word. It really it really is a fear of mine, a phobia of mine. The job application thingy, it's not just a meme for me. I really am scared of that when I see it on my timeline. True horror. I just cannot be honest with my mom and tell her, Mom, all I wanna do is stream and play games and have fun. And she's like, nah, you have to be professional. Nah, you have to earn. Nah, you gotta be a tax-paying part of society. The horror indeed. Wow, it's Misha! Hey, Wapibi! Kamusta? Is it so rainy there? Or are you experiencing earthquakes? Hi, Misha! My sweet Misha. I've been gone for a while, but Misha has been checking up on me, like, once in a while to check if I'm okay from the disasters, the natural disasters that have been happening here in the Philippines. Hewo, my baby. Well, me, I'm looking for the J word because I need to upgrade PC. Wait, Mikan, are you really? Thank you for censoring that as well. Ooh, if you ever are, you know, I say I'm scared of jobs, but it has some benefits too. What I'm really looking forward to if I ever get to the point where I have to get a job is the money. We're gonna get that bag, baby. We're gonna play games and we're gonna upgrade our stuff. Good luck, Mikan. Good luck. I hope you can let me know if you finally do land one. I really am interested in your cooking stuff and your job stuff. Yes, we need monies. Yeah. So although it's stressful, so that, like, you know the meme, right? When you're jobless and you're sad but you're broke, but when you have a job, at least you're sad but you have money. Earthquakes are still going on, but ever so slightly. Rat! That was so fast. What did you eat? What did you have for dinner? Headbuds for Misha. Ati, I hope you are safe. I hope you know, they say I learned, you know, as old as I am, in my 2,000 years of experience, I learned only recently, in the good year of 2025, that there's really no accurate way to predict earthquakes. But you can have measures, you can have preventative measures, preparations. I hope you have that in your house, Misha. My Discord account got hacked yesterday. What happened? What did the hacker do? Were you able to take it back? Were you able to take your account back? Hope I can continue my baking. It costs electricity. It's fine. You can do the baking on the weekends. When you get your job, you can do baking on the weekends. Or like what you do it in midnight when there's nobody around to bother you while you're baking. I think that's what I think, what you've been doing. You got it back, thankfully. That's good. Oh my god. Why would... I don't know. I'm sure there are lots of reasons for it, but I don't know why hackers would want to hack accounts. Are they gaining money from it, or did they just want to do it to be evil or something? Rat, I had hash browns, eggs, and chicken tenders. Hash browns, yummy. Potato, eggs, and chicken tenders, yummy. Sounds like a big girl dinner. That's my girl dinner. I sent some things to multiple servers. Were they X-rated, Unyo? Were they NSFW? NSLW. You know, that reminds me. I'm watching this comedian on YouTube who was, I think he's a millennial, an older millennial. I don't think he's Gen X. I don't know. Anyway, they were trying to, they were being quizzed on Gen Z and Gen Alpha terms, slang, and it was so weird. The skibbity, the riz, the cap, the no cap, and all that stuff. I wonder, like, if I know that kids, they really do use those terms. Even Filipino kids do use that. I wonder if you're considered, if you're in that age group, like teens or whatever. I wonder if you're considered cool if you use, among your peers, if you really are considered cool if you use those terms. No, thankfully it wasn't NSFW. That's good. We don't wanna pollute the minds of the servers that you've been in. And I'm glad. So like Nisha, you said your account was hacked yesterday. So the hacking only happened for one day, right? You only lost control of your account for one day. How did you know it was hacked? Did somebody from your servers notify you that you were sending weird stuff? Yeah, no, thankfully. Yeah. What? 6 to 7? What is 6-7, Waku? What is 6-7? I saw some teachers getting mad at it because their students wouldn't stop saying 6-7. 6-7. What? Is it? What? I don't get it. I think truly people don't care what others think and just want to have fun. True. That's a big W. Skibidi Riz Sigma, Ohio. Skibidi Sigma, Ohio. Cap. Or whatever you got there. It's just 6 to 7. I will never truly grasp the humor of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Maybe I'm too old for that shit. 2,000 years old. Weird ass meme. It is a weird ass meme. Skibbity was kind of funny for a bit, but now it's like, I don't even know what skibbity means. It can mean cool or something. I don't know. I don't wanna be brain rotted. The weird thing is my mind has been on academic mode all this time. I feel smart, I feel academic, I feel old. Skibidi has lost its art, thank goodness. It's such an ugly meme, to be honest. Why can't memes be cuter, huh? You guys saw the Star Rail Lonely Evernight meme? Why can't memes be like that? The cuter ones, not the ugly, gross, skibidi ones. All I know is my friends find me entertaining and so life is beautiful. That is good. I do find you entertaining and beautiful. Life is indeed beautiful. I'm thankful I don't see it anymore. Misha, at your age range, I would imagine you'd be seeing a lot more of it. Compared to me, my Twitter timeline is full of like VTuber drama, celebrities like Sabrina Carpenter, because I love Sabrina Carpenter, and sometimes political stuff, but I kinda ignore them. I think it's kinda hard to get away from political stuff on Twitter, seeing as Elon Musk owns it. You love Evernight. Did you pull for Evernight? I skipped Evernight because I was looking forward to Cyrene, but now I'm just like, I don't know if I still want Cyrene. Because I don't know. Maybe I'm just gullible. I'm supposed to be strong against people's opinions on social media, but I can be so easily influenced. I used to want Cyrene really bad because she's like the full version of mem, right? Because I love mem. But now, after all the hate I've been seeing, I'm thinking, yeah, they're evil for charging us 300 for making her base model so bad. You didn't pull for her, but you did try to pull for Farina this patch. You lost. No. Farina is a must-have. I stand by that. It used to be Kazuha on my team 24/7, but now it's Farina. I am so lost without Farina. I skinned Mem for a $30 hat. GG recovery. I don't even open Twitter. I forgot my password. That's good. Stay away from Twitter. Twitter is cancer. Twitter is a cesspool of evil thoughts and bad people. There are good people there as well, but I feel like I have a bad case of being addicted to Twitter. I live for the drama. Twitter is for prawn, nothing else. We can. Well, that is true though. That is true though. You know the OF models who comment. They used to be so rampant before. They comment on like popular posts until you like click on my bio. Sophie, have you tried Do It Night Abyss yet? Nasumi, hello, it's been a while. Do It Night Abyss, it looked interesting, but I don't think I wanna try it. I don't think. Have you tried it? Do you like it? Have you been playing it? Twitter sucks. Yeah, it does suck. I don't know. It's more, just like I like true crime, so the negativity amuses me sometimes. But if you're like a normal sane person who wants to take care of their sanity, do not be addicted to Twitter like me. I love prawn even though I'm a little allergic. I love prawn. Prawn is my favorite seafood. Like for real. FR. Fur. That's why I only stick to JP artists. Yak mo yak ni Celphy yan. Wait. Wait, why did I go so far in the chat? He. Every character is free anyway. Yeah, that's what I heard with Do a Night Abyss. They will never have a character gacha. The gacha is gonna be only for Cosmetics Fairy. Thank you so much for the prime sub. Hello. I get kilig when I see you in chat. 11 ones! Let's go! 11 ones! Thank you so much! Thank you. Although the skins are the cosmetics are gacha. It looks nice. I have never played it. I watched Magic the Raccoon play it a little bit, and I saw that the visuals, the graphics in Do It Night Abyss are very good. Why am I not playing it? I don't know. I have ugly preconceptions about it, but that's just me. If you like it, if you love it, if you enjoy it, go. I might just play it if I see enough people, my friends, like really enjoying it. You've been following for Misha 1 year, 1 month, 24 days, 15 hours. Let's go. That's my baby right there. My baby, how are you doing today? Me, I'm good. I don't know if you guys can see, but I've joined a cult recently. A cult that worships me. So I'm the leader of the cult of me. I'm taking this Halloween opportunity to recruit you guys into my cult, the Church of Celphy. No offense to those with real religions out there, but yeah, I'd like to invite you to join my cult, wherein you have to pledge 20% of your monthly earnings to me. Amen. Thank you. Yeah, 20% of your earnings. If you don't have a job, 20% of your parents' earnings. I think that's fair. Just a little bit of your time and money to give to me so that I can indulge in worldly material things like shopping for plushies, buying cup noodles, going on trips once in a while. Can I pledge my soul? Of course. If you have like zero monetary have no sources for monetary contributions, your soul is perfectly fine and acceptable. You'll join right now. Awesome. Just so like after the stream, I'm gonna be sending you forms. Digital signatures will do, and when you put in your digital signature in the form that I'll be sending you, you will be automatically part of my cult, and I'll start deducting 20% from you or your parents' salaries or your soul to me. Thank you guys for your time. Can I play some other way being adorable? Of course, Rat. Just you being here, just you messaging me once in a while is a good payment for the Church of Celphy. Any Celphy, me go now. Need to employ me to work now. Me see you again. Okay, Nasumi. I didn't understand that, but I kinda did. Thank you so much for dropping by, Nasumi. If you have the time, tell me more about Do at Night Abyss. I'm guessing you like it because you asked me if I play it. Yay! Welcome guys to the Church of Celphy. Ang nasa akin 1K lang galing sa iyong tita. Now save your 1K. Your soul is worth more than any money that I could ever need. So there are 3 ways to pay me right now, or maybe 4. We'll expand the payment options. We accept GCash as well, guys. GCash, PayPal, credit card, also Bitcoin. I accept Bitcoin. I am not averse to the ways of the crypto, you know. So there's 3 ways you can pay me, either to pledging 20% of your salary, your soul, or just being adorable. We'll think of other payment options in the future. I'm shocked that work to BH this always works out for me. Yes, because you are an adorable rat, an adorable friend that I am lucky. I am lucky to have my little what do you call people who are members of your cult? My lambs. My little lambs. My little I don't know. My cultlings. My Celphylings. I'm lucky to be your friend, Celphy. Thank you. Si Celphy ang pinakamaganda. Absolutely true. Since you guys have agreed to be part of the cult, there is nobody else more beautiful in your eyes than me. You shall not look at any other person and find them beautiful other than me. If I as much as see you peeping into other people's streams, liking other people's Instagram or TikTok or Twitter posts, you will get punished. 5 years in the 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the what do you call the little cells in the prisons where you're all alone in the darkness. That's where I'm taking you. Can I get one exemption being my partner? Okay, fine. I'm fine with being the second most beautiful person in your eyes. That's fine. Hoy Celphy, hoy fairy. I'm fine with being second. If you guys have partners, or if you have Oshis, I'm fine with being second. As long as you stick to your promise of 20%. 20%. Yippee! Imagine being the second most beautiful person in somebody's eyes. Or being the first. Oh my god. I'm kidding. Anyway, what's this nonsense that I've been... Yeah, Place for Forbidden, we're gonna do that. How many? We've been on for like 30 minutes. Me yapping. Not bad, right? Not bad. But my Oshi. I'm your Oshi now. Look at me. Look into my eyes. I'm your Oshi now. Just kidding. You know, Misha never fails to tell me that, you know, somehow I'm still one of their favorite Filipino streamers. But other than being Filipino, you know, we're both we're not an adult yet, but you know, we're both mature, and you can look at other people when I'm not looking. You're also my Oshi. You're my Oshi. You are gorgeous. What I was gonna say? Yeah. If it's not obvious enough, that was just a joke. Church of Celphy. Imagine me, a demon NEET. I was banished. My lore is I was banished from hell for being too nice, but then I end up making more evil things in the overworld in Earth. Such beautiful eyes. I'm dying. I feel like this cult thing is gonna backfire because Misha here is like the master rizzler. Anyway, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, I was gonna remember the bro stuff. I was gonna play Potato, but I don't think it's spooky. It's not spooky at all, right? Because you play as a potato, running around defeating monsters. I'd rather go to hell for you, Misha. You are Asmodeus. Potato. I really like I really like vampire. What's the name of the game? Well, if you guys are familiar with Potato, I like that kind of game. I like that kind of game. You already govern hell. Yeah, you're one of the 7. What do you call that? 7 princes of hell? Yeah, Asmodeus is one of those, right? Asmodeus. So we're gonna play A Place Forbidden. A Place Forbidden. Let's switch over to the gaming. To the gaming. Where's my game? We played a game with Hanya yesterday on her birthday. Really? I was there, but I didn't catch the part where she was playing with people. What did you play? What did you play? I'm sorry for the awkward thing behind me. It's supposed to be the back of my robe, but I couldn't pin it properly. I spent like a lot of minutes on it, but I just couldn't. Just don't mind it. Just pretend I have a proper robe on. Shift at midnight. Ah, she was playing Shift at midnight. I didn't know she was playing with other people. How was it? How was it? Did you enjoy? Were you on? Were you on VC? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. It's spooky time, guys. I managed to join. She became my first friend in Steam. Are we not friends in Steam yet, Misha? Well, yeah. I hope you had lots of fun. I hope you can play more stuff with more people, you know. It's good to expand your horizons. Unfortunately, Nor, we're not friends yet. I wonder if this command works. If you are on your PC or you can access Steam, please, Misha, please add me. By the way, guys, those who are willing to join the Church of Celphy, you are also obligated to add me on Steam. My Steam ID is right there. Steam ID is right there, so you can see we can totally stalk each other whenever we're playing. And also it'll be easier for us to like invite each other in co-op games in the future, right? Okay. Are you going to join my Discord again, Misha? There hasn't been really nothing much happening on my Discord. I'm pretty bad with Discord. I have the notifications off when I'm studying. I'm really sorry about that. You can stalk me anytime, bestie. Don't worry, Rat. I already do. That's what homies do, right? That's what good friends do. They stalk each other. No holds barred. I know every little secret that you have. I know what games you play. I know what time you eat. I know what time you go to sleep. What's this? Yes, a Place Forbidden. I don't know why I have this. Maybe because it's free on Steam, by the way, and it has quite good reviews, very positive reviews. And I was looking up what to play that's kind of easy and kind of spooky, and this was recommended to me because it's one of the shorter horror games. I was thinking, I don't know if you guys heard that. That was our puppy. I was thinking of playing Outlast. It's on sale. Soma is also on sale. I was gifted Resident Evil 7 Biohazard before, but it's such a long game. So this is what I decided upon. A puppy playtime multiplayer game. I have puppy playtime. I have that. Project Playtime. Is that a different one? Anyone I'm comfortable enough with could follow me home and watch me through my window, and I'll be chill with it, to be honest. Thank you for giving me permission, Rat. As I was saying, if we lived somewhat close to each other, whenever you're feeling down, I would totally invite you for some drinks, milk tea, because we're wholesome, milk tea, no alcoholic drinks. Yeah, Place Forbidden. Let's start. Ikazo. Let's go. I'm already in your walls. I'd be happy. I'd be lucky. I'd be so thrilled to have such a cute Misha in my walls. No problem, anytime. I'd so appreciate that. I wish I had more friends living near me. Like Heck geography, heck time zones, heck the fact that we cannot just teleport into each other whenever we feel like it. Now let's start. Wait, the BGM. So, Cultlings, let us start this game. I think this is a horror game that's based on a haunted library or something like that. Not really haunted, like a scary library. They say the horror is more psychological or something. If we live closer, we'd go get dinner. So yeah, if we guys lived close to each other, I'd be coming over to Rat's place and invite them for milk tea, and then at night I'd go over to Fairies and we'd have dinner together almost every night when they're free. See, Rat wants Misha in their walls. I want Misha in my walls. I want you guys in my walls. No, I'll be the one in your walls since I'm the occult leader. Oh, I forgot that this isn't voice, so bear with me. Na 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 na. Oh, a snake. Is that a snake? This surely is not my apartment. Oh, by the way, Celphy, I just thought of a game we should totally play together. What game is it? What game is it? So, I definitely did not fall asleep in this chair. Carpet, rug, carpet, serpent, whatever you call that. Fairy has added me. Thank you, Fairy. I'll approve the request after stream. Thank you. Can't believe we're not friends yet, bruh. Are we there yet? I saw that. I saw the Are we there? I think it was on Twitter or on the Steam front page. So that's why it's trending. I wonder why I have 27 hours on Umamusam Pretty Derby. Wait, do you like it? Do you play it a lot, Misha? It's super funny. Are we there yet? You know what? I can totally wishlist it right now. Are we there yet? Store. Are we there yet? No. I got a couple of co-op games while I was MIA. And one of them was Pacify. It looked really spooky. Are we there yet? According to Steam, my account does not meet the requirements to send friend invites. What the heck? Add to your wish list. Am I gonna buy it? I'll think about it. But thank you for the recommendation, Rat. I think I'll buy it. It's not that expensive. Kung makapagsalita ko, alam mo may pera. Wait, Yuvi's here. Where? Wow! 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 It's wow! Wow! I can't do the wow thing. My voice is broken. My Yuffie. Check out my Yuffie. Wow! There you go. Wow! Boom. How you doing? Wow. What you doing? How you doing? Go check out a UV. It's best with 4 people in case you wanna invite anyone else. Ooh, 4 people. Are we there yet? I'm gonna buy it later. I think it would be fun to play with you and friends. Here is my friend code, Misha. Thank you for the shout. You're like a melody in my head. Thank you for the Papa Rave. I'm breathing because it's raining heavily. No. Take care, Misha. Okay, stay safe. Where is the Steam and how do I add people? Friends. Add a friend. Add a friend, enter friend code. As Morpheus, send invite. There you go. There you go. I see. Well, I'm broke. I can't buy it. I think it's in full price right now. 240 something pesos. Maybe they'll go on sale because they're so popular. I have not bought a game myself for a long time. I only buy stuff that are 300 pesos or less. And if I really want it. I just got home from outside as well, so I'm just on my phone. Wait, did you just get home? Oh, wait, I just got. Yeah, you said JGH just got home. Welcome home, wow, welcome home. Ooh, you touched grass. Ooh, just kidding. Time to sell my left kidney. You don't need it anyway. Also, you can use the proceeds from your kidney sales to fund my cult. Okay, Misha, I support that. I support that. Go sell your left kidney so you can buy game and play with us and contribute to the cult. Just kidding, just kidding. I have 2 friends in Steam. I'm your second friend, right? Your first friend was Hanya. It was Hanya's birthday yesterday. And she was so nice to spend her birthday with us, her online friends. So yeah, Misha, I'll be stalking you. I'll be finding out what you play, what you've been playing, how long you've been playing them, and what your achievements are in the games. RV there yet? Wow! Mikan, have you heard of RV there yet? And have you played it? Did you enjoy it? Do you enjoy it? Also, guys, I'm more free now. A little bit more free now. I still have to do the rest of my thesis, but I'm pretty much free to play at night. Just a minute, no. Touching grass, we got drenched in the rain. It's cold. I'm having hot coffee right now. Ooh, coffee. You got drenched? Are you dry now? Are you dry now? From the rain? That's bad. It's been so long since I've got... Oh, sometimes I get rained on when I make sampay, make loads, and it's raining. This is the only time I get wet from the rain. Ooh, at night. Yeah, at night. Because in the morning, I have to stay downstairs to do chores and be with my mom. This is like a sensitive thing, but in the morning, in the afternoon, if I'm not streaming, I have to be downstairs with my mom because she thinks I'm doing, not really, she just questions why I'm always alone in my room. It's a weird mom thing. Yee, pwede na pwede. Yay! Yay! I have 3 games I can play with you guys. I'm gonna check out RV there yet and Pacify and the other game. Terraria, was it? Yeah, Terraria. Hey, thank you. I'm comfy now with my blankie, nice and fluffy. Home and dry and warm. Home and dry and warm. Wait, Rat, since you mentioned it, have you played it? I don't know if I missed if you mentioned playing it. As you said, it's something we can play together. Have you tried it? Pacify. Why that emote? Wow, why? How was your experience with Pacify? You have? It's like so insanely fun. Oh, so yeah, you said it was very funny and was insanely fun. It's Astra! It's beautiful, Astra! Hello, Astra! Ba't lumit yung boses ko? Welcome! It's my love! Your love is my love. My love is your love. I did beat it, but it's not about the destination, it's a journey. Wait, right, is it like Repo? We can play it, like, replay it multiple times. Why is there a destination? Is it like Peak? Where you have to reach the peak? How check out the beautiful ladies in chat. Efonia and Astra. Best friends. But like actually it will play differently with every different group. It would be so fun. I have no idea what it's about. I just know it's RV because it's in the title. RV is, I don't even know what an RV stands for. Something vehicle. I just know that Americans who are not too well off, they live in RVs. RVs. I played Pacify with Astra and Lilia and Isaac. Lilia cried. Tilian kami nang wala pa si Isaac. No! Did you stream that? I missed it. No! Hawa kitty wow. Hello my loves. Hello my loves. Technically, it's the same each time. I think they're split pads. Oh, really? Road vehicle. That's what RV stands for. Road vehicle. But aren't all cars road vehicles? I'm sorry. Recreational vehicle. There you go. Because it's so big and so spacious. Some Americans, I don't know if other countries do it as well. I just know Americans live there. Some of them do. And some of them, you know, they're rich, but they decided to live in an RV to create content. Like my life in an RV. My day in a life as an RV dweller or something like that. It's okay, we can play. Okay, again. Yes. Yeah, it's just so silly. The game is just jank, but in a very fun way. If you say so, I trust and believe you. It is on my wish list and I will buy it later. Why do I have money? Because my brother gave me some money. I was like, brother, I have comprehensive exam coming soon. Can you lend me some money? And my brother was like, don't worry, I got you. And gave me the money plus a little bit extra. So I have a little bit of extra money. It's not much, but I can definitely buy RV. I'll be there yet. Yeah, you. I don't want to go and chat with you guys. I don't want to play this game anymore. But it's in the title, so we will try it. We will make it if we try. Just the two of us. Wait, why is there flies? Flies? Insects? Is this a flower? A plant pot? A wilted plant pot? Pretty depressing, yeah, it is. Here's a few $1 million and some pocket for the road. I wish I was that rich. Speaking of last yap before we play, I recently been watching this show on HBO Max called Succession. It's pretty interesting. It's about this family who owns a media empire, and the patriarch, CEO, whatever you call him, the leader of the empire, is getting old and sick and is planning to retire, and the children are like fighting to be the successor of the empire. It's pretty interesting. And they are like so rich, so rich. Like if they do you wrong, they will have media people who will pay you off not to say bad things about them. Molly. Oh yeah, Molly Kill played a horror game that I recommend. What is the name of the horror game? What is it? Yeah, play with us, Celphy ng Pacify. Miss ka na namin. I miss you guys too. I have a serious case of FOMO. Because I was doing stuff. I was doing school stuff. I wasn't able to stream. I wasn't able to play with you guys. Analog skin off. Yeah, I have Pacify thanks to a certain beautiful someone who gave me Pacify, and I have Terraria too because of a certain cool person who gave me Terraria. Analog skin off. Let me try that out. I saw this game called Cold Meat on itch.io. I was planning to play that, but I saw on the page it's only 10 minutes of playtime. Are we there yet? And analog skin off. It's free. Add to library. Thank you, Misha. Thank you for the recommendation. Thank you. Meow meow meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Thank you for the headband, Shadow! It's been a while! How have you been? How was your stream? Hello! Thank you so much for the Neko Arc and the Hydrate and the Stretch and the Headbutt. But I'm so happy it works. I almost forgot to open Mix It Up. Mix it up. That's what happens when you don't stream for a while. You forget how to stream. Thank you, thank you. You're still broke. I'm always broke. Addicted to Terraria, but I can only play it on mobile. Is it free on mobile, Misha? I hope there's I have Terraria, right? I'm gonna play it on PC. If you have it on your phone, can we cross-play thingy it? Can we? Can we? Legit. I hope you're nice and cozy in your blankie. Ew, cute. I can imagine Yuffie tucked under the blankie, vibing as always, Chief. I'm glad to know that. Wait, guys, you should hydrate as well. Thank you again for the redeems. You can crossplay if someone hosts a server. Eh di maganda! Eh di ayos! Grabe, Chong, we can play Terraria on our phone. I'll be on PC, you'll be on mobile, and we can play it together. If you guys wanna VC on Discord, that would be totally cool. Hindi na ako nakapag-Taglish. We can meet up in the coffee shop, pare. Let's play Terraria. You can? Noise, right? Well hydrated, yes, well hydrated. Drink your coffee, what have you, soft drinks, water is good. Sheesh, pare, sheesh talaga. Sobrang cool ng Terraria na yan. You can play with your homies. I can play on my iPhone 17 Pro Max, you know? And on your high-end MacBook PC, we can play together. Naging roof kami. Go. May nakita akong meme. I don't know if I sent that to you. Wow. Like, Konyo people are just Rufame. Speaking Taglish. Yes. Go. Let's play Terraria, guys. Tama na. I reserve the Rufame impressions to Euphonia because she's so good at it. Boo! It's Hanya! Guys! If you guys are still there, go wish Hanya happy birthday. Happy birthday. Hanya in the house. She plays some horror stuff. Happy birthday. My beautiful friend Hanya. Happy birthday. Belated happy birthday. My beautiful friend Hana Sakura VT. It was her birthday yesterday. Yeah, happy birthday again, Hanya. The most beautiful lady I have ever met. Hanya. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a super fun birthday. Misha was telling me that they played with you on stream and that you are Misha's first ever friend on Steam. Sana inuman dito, pre, dito. Lika, inom tayo. Gusto mo Red Horse? Do you drink Red Horse? I'm sure you know what Red Horse is. Because Hanya is like an honorary Filipino. I love her so much. If you don't want Red Horse, we can have Tang juice. Tang Orange, Tang Four Seasons. And it's up to you if you want to add some gin bulag. I make the pulutan. Adobong chinelas, what's is that literal chinelas? Or just like a term for a certain kind of adobo? That's so suspicious, Migan. Here, have a drink for Hanya. Unfortunately, I don't have any fancy drink right now. But if I were to drink in honor of Hanya, it would be like a rosé. Because rosé is pink and Hanya is pink. And rosé is so pretty and fancy like Hanya. Chewable. Chewable chinelas. True. Sorry about shooting you. You jumped in front of the bullet. Onyo, Misha, that is a capital offense. You do not, simply does not shoot the Hanya. You cut the channels into bite size and make it an adobo. You feed it to your fellow kainuman if they eat too much pulutan. Guys, I have a bit of a pet peeve. You know, when I used to work in the call center, you know, the call center culture, some of them, they like to go drinking after a shift. So I would, because I was so young back then, I was like, yeah, let's go, inuman. So there's like 24/7 inumans, right? And you go drinking with your call center office mates. And then there's like a couple of people, usually girls who do not drink. And then they finish all of the pulutan because they're not drinking. And that makes me a little bit annoyed because I want the pulutan too, even though I'm drinking. But you ate all of it because you're not drinking. That's just a little pet peeve of mine. Maybe, you know, when you go to inumans and you don't drink, you order your own food. Lumalabas yung pagka-selfish ko. You've shot me, Onyo. Misha, you are therefore sentenced to 10 minutes of 10 minutes of no milk, no, 2 days no milk tea for what you did to Hanya. Yeah, that is quite annoying, right? Because even though you're drinking, you want pollutant as well. But then you see that the non-drinkers already ate all the pollutant. I was like, girl, get your own pollutant. This is for the drinkers. Speaking of drinking, my aunt made me drink mojito. What is mojito? Is it tequila? Is it vodka? Bro, I really suck at horror games. But we'll try it. We'll try it. Let's take clues from Hanya. We close this and we close this. Close this, close this. What is in this? Can I check? No. There's files. Can I not open the files? It's already been a month since you last drank milk tea. Why? You used to drink it every day, right? Rat, I just realized I still had the under 18 role in your Discord. Wow! Could you believe that? It's been that long because you still have the under 18. You're no longer under 18. This is why I make a lot of pollutant when I have drinkings in my house, so everyone's satisfied. Thank you for being so considerate host, Mikan. I would love to have you as my inuman buddy. You're 20 now. It's been... Wait, you were under 7... You were under 80. Oh yeah, I remember one of our earlier conversations. We were talking. You were like... you were already upfront that, hey, just so you know, I'm like this age, and I'm like, that's fine. I'll treat you like my little baby sibling or something like that, baby friend. Just like Misha is my baby friend. Now you're 20. Now you're 20. And I think we talked about it before. You are legal age now for drinking, right? But you don't like drinking. Right. Celphy and horror games. I suck at this, Hanya. I just realized now, Hanya, since I've been watching you a lot, horror games is more about exploring and then randomly getting scared, which is what you're really good at. Lol, Limao, yeah, I can just... You just don't want to, which is very good. Sadly, most of them are spicy. I like spicy. And that is a good tactic, Mikan. You make it a little bit spicier than usual so they don't eat a lot of it. That's a good tactic. Wait, Celphy, did you know my age? I just know you're on the younger side, and you're gonna be 18 soon-ish, right? This year or next year, right? Legally, I could drink at 16. Ah, so that's how it is in New Zealand. If you're under 16, if you're 16, you can drink. You just have to have like a legal guardian with you. That's the same in other European countries, right? They can drink before they're 18 as long as they're with adults. Next year, let's go. Misha's gonna be 18 next year. As I mentioned, this is your last year to commit crimes and not be sent to prison. So I highly, as a member of the cult of Celphy, I highly encourage you to explore your options. Gotta skirt around the law, you know? Why pollutant are spicy most of the time? Really, I think it matches if you're drinking something cold and you eat something spicy. Maybe that's the thing. Welcome to the Philippines where drinking has no age limit as long as no one catches you. Exactly. Like when I was in high school, the adults would encourage me to drink so that I would know how to drink. And I know my classmates for real, like my classmates who are a little bit well off, they would go have drinking parties after school sometimes. Because they can afford to. Some of them drove cars. That's so weird, right? High schoolers driving cars and being able to drink and smoke. That's so wild. If you think about it now, they're babies. Why is a baby smoking and drinking? Ah, the spiciness wakes you up. That's true, that's true. I think anywhere in the world is like that. Truly, truly. It's just that what we see in media, we're like, why is the baby, why is that teenager drinking? But actually they can if they wanted to. They have access to like their parents' alcohol. They can tell their adult friends to buy alcohol for them. My grandma introduced me to my first beer when I was 12. Imagine that. What beer did you drink? I bet it was Sanmig or Red Horse. Yun lang naman yung mga beer dito eh. Truth be told, my sister first got drunk at 3 years old. Oh my god, that's a literal baby. A baby, an infant. Wait. I saw a file in there. Can I not access it? No. Okay, can I crouch? I can. I see files, but I don't think I can open the files. She drank tuba. That's sugarcane alcohol, right? And it's very strong. Like the American moonshine, I think. Very strong. Crazy. So you know, the plant grew. Why? And my grandpa? Sweet and dangerous. Just like Hanya. Wink, wink. Hanya, what is your favorite alcoholic drink? I just like to know. I feel like just on image alone, you look like a champagne girl, you know? Fancy drink. But I know that deep down, you're like, an honorary Pinoy. And I would not be surprised if you drank, like, manlier drinks or stronger drinks. And my grandpa made her drink anyways. Your grandpa made your 3-year-old sister drink tuba. That's so wild. Are those flies? I think those are flies. You know, before I started yapping to check out the file cabinet earlier, it was wilting. Now it's like wilting and growing. So Mike, what is that? I'm trying to get my alcohol tolerance as high as possible. Please do not. Okay, but if you do it carefully and in moderation. But I would rather if you don't get drunk, Misha, because to me you're a baby. So Mike is a popular South Korean alcoholic beverage when you mix soju and beers. I know soju and beer, so that's what it's called. Soma ek. That's, I have tried it before. It's nice. For some reason, it's really sweet. It's like sweeter beer, right? Based Hanya. Hanya, did you ever watch this anime called VTuber something? The anime about VTubers, have you watched that? It was so funny. She's so addicted to this beer called Strong Zero. Have you tried that? Do you like that? I'm trying to get my... I think Hanya would appreciate Jean Bullock. I bet she would. She looks so cute and demure. But she's actually down with the boys, and she would appreciate a Jean Bulag. I got a German uncle, and I wanna drink with him. Oh yeah, you're German uncle. Did I mention this before? I learned from a German, so I knew a German person before, and they said that water is so expensive in Germany that beer is cheaper. That's why even kids drink beer, because it's cheaper than water. Isn't that weird? Last time he came here, Red Horse didn't even affect him. Maybe to your uncle who's like so used to German beer, Red Horse is like a baby's drink. Get this baby thing out of my face. I want real beer. I haven't. I want to try. Wait, Mikan. What is gin bulag again? It's gin and what? It's gin and what? It's gin and what? Is there... Am I gonna find anything? There are files in there, but I can't open the files. Right? Just regular gin. There you go. Gin. What's a popular gin brand? The gin that's always... Yung laging iniinom ng mga mang-iinom sa kalye. What's the gin brand? Bulag because it makes you close your eyes due to the high concentration of the alcohol. At that point, just drink rubbing alcohol straight. I think I was watching this weird comedy show where the person who needed a drink so much just straight up drank sanitizing alcohol. Gin bulag. We're gonna make Hanya drink gin bulag. Nice painting. What is it about? Is this the fall of Pompeii? Once I turn 18, I'm gonna drink soju. I think you're gonna like it, Misha. I think you're gonna like it. When you do drink soju, pick a flavored one. Usually it's flavored, but sometimes there's soju that doesn't have. That's just regular soju. The fruit flavored ones are good. I personally like watermelon. Visitors. Yentil Krillman, 1886. Mason, Lionel, Ella, Samuel, Alice, Hans, Bernard. These are so far apart. 1956. 1830. Greetings, visitor. You're more than welcome to sign your name and the date of your visit in this guest book. Once you've done that, we welcome you to explore the library to your heart's content, so long as it isn't after closing. Once you've had your fill, please let yourself out. You will find a pass key to the front door on one of the desks in the study. Honestly, I love drinking wine. When Dad makes some, I drink wine too. Your dad makes wine? For real? Your dad makes red wine? Really? Like from grapes? Really? That's so fancy. That's so cool. You know how some rich people have their own vineyards, grape vineyards. Doesn't seem to be working. It's cold in here. Imagine the concept of having a heater. Can't be me, can't be us. Yeah, him and my uncles. That's really cool. Since you like it, I assume it's good. Do you know how much % of alcohol is in there? My mom likes to drink wine, and her favorite kind of wine is red wine with 10% alcohol. My family from the Netherlands actually love it, and they would know what good wine is, right? Usually, people from Europe would know what good wine is, and they liked the wine that your dad made. You don't know, that's fine. It's fine. It's so fancy. Drinking wine. Rich people things drinking wine after a long day of work or not working. Doesn't seem like a very fair fight. I don't even understand this. This is a man. And what is that? Some sort of creature? A horse? No, it's not a horse. Continue. So here we are at the library, and there are books in here. What are we supposed to do with the books? What's this? Astrological signs. The stars align. Why don't we rewrite the stars? A computer. It doesn't look like it's plugged in. Unresponsive. So far, we've seen one book that has a title that you can read. Legible? Is that the term for it? Legible? Legible? So yeah, I'm just gonna explore, guys. If you guys wanna do your own thing, that's totally fine. You got games to play, other things you wanna watch. If you just wanna lurk, that's totally fine. I really appreciate you for being here and listening to me yap, yapperoni, yapperoni. Is that or hi? Hoy hoy. You know, sometimes TTS will say that's hoy. We miss Celphy. Oh, thank you. I miss you guys too so much. I'm not gonna lie. I said the exam thing, the thesis thing made me a little bit depressed, but I'm good now. I'm good. Building something out of nothing. I was thinking of alchemy, but that's not really alchemy, right? Because in Full Metal Alchemist, we learn that in order to create something, you must give something in return or something like that. You just can't make anything out of nothing. Celphy, die, yung labahin mo, die. There's another book here. Can we not? Inday. What's the male equivalent of Inday? Is it Totoy? Toy. Bili kang suka, Toy. Bili kang gin. Ubus na yung gin ko. Sabihin mo kay Aling Nena, ilista niya sa mga utang. Yeah, to. Sometimes I use to as well, Totoy, Inday. We can't see. It's the snake sign again. And this pot of plant does not have flies in it. Every 3 p.m. I always open Twitch to see if you're streaming for 2 months now. I think no, I'm sorry. Did you go back to the server? Wait. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I appreciate that. It makes me wanna kinda cry. What's this? Dead. It just says dead. It's a snake eating itself. Did you guys know that whenever there's like a government conspiracy and when they try to shut down that conspiracy, it's called a snake eating its own tail because it's trying to get rid of something, but it's just backfiring because now people are gonna ask, why did you shut down the conspiracy? Is it true? Why are you shutting it down? Don't cry. Wah. You guys know the meme? It's a Filipino meme. Handa na ba kayo mga inutil? Wah! Such a Filipino meme. Jude! Hello, Jude. Magandang hapon, Ginoong Jude. Kamusta na po? Okay. The plant is dead. The snake has obviously it's gonna have a significance later on, but I don't know what yet. What's this pretzel snake? It's a pretzel. Yeah, it's a pretzel. Now I want Auntie Anne's. It's just a gray snake eating its own tail. Probably it has a significance later on, but we don't know yet right now. Pretzel setup, no? You guys tried Auntie Anne's? I love Auntie Anne's. Whenever I'm in a mall and I walk past an Auntie Anne's, it always smells so good, and I always try to buy some pretzels from there. Pretzel sticks with cheese or like hazelnut. Charap. What's that? The tick fills up on blood. A pustule pulses on a dead dog's eye. Like these, your head shall burst. Like these, your head shall burst. What? Hazelnuts. Yum. Have you tried it? I like hazelnut filling, like Nutella, etc. Chocolate on the pretzel sticks from Auntie Anne. Charap. And it's only like it used to be 80 pesos before the pandemic, but last time I checked it, it's like 100 plus pesos now. But still not bad, right? Unlike those fancy desserts from the coffee shops, that's like 200 plus or something. Coffee shops are a scam. Coffee shops are a scam. Just support your local dessert makers like Mikan. I think that's a premonition. It's trying to scare us that our head will burst, just like a tick that fills up on blood, just like a pustule on a dead dog's eye. What's a pustule? Yes, they are scams. Yes, support local. Support your local bake shop. I would bite Mikan's cake. I mean the cake he makes. Yeah, the cake he makes, not the cake of Mikan, if you know. IYKYK. IYKYK. If you know, you know. Press N to open notebook. Room 1. You should really clean this place up. Don't lose the trash. I have to clean it up, but I shouldn't lose the trash. What are these? They look like Egyptian writings. Now na. What is this sexual tension in chat? What is this? You know the gif where this girl is biting her finger? What is this? Room 2. This makes me wish I had someone to vent to. Speaking of venting, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be back real quick. I'll be back. I'll be back. Where's my BRB? BRB, don't forget to eat Mikan's cake. Mikan's cake. Chat, no. Have a try of Mikan's baked cake. It still doesn't sound right. Where's my BRB? There you go. Apostles. People who are under someone of higher influence. People who are learning under said person. Apostle. Apostle. I'd have to bathroom. I'll be back. I'm back. Go Chorizo! Chorizo! I'm back. I'm back. My dog is here. My dog is here. Chorizo! Welcome back. Thank you, Mikan. I did miss the chorizo. Oh my god, my dog! Saglit. Wait. Aso? That was loud, sorry. Aso? You should give me dog pics. I will send you dog pics later. Or tomorrow. No, later, sorry. The dog followed me to my room and then they wanted to be let out. It's okay, yeah. Wait, the BRB, where is the BRB? BRB, there you go. I'll send you dog pics. I have 3 dogs to send you pics. 3 dog. Yeah, 3 dog pics. I have three dog pics, or maybe 1 pic where all of them are in 1 pic. Sorry, I was just catching my breath. The stairs. I'm too old for the stairs. We found a note. We found a note earlier, right? No, not this one. That was the threat. Oh, the notebook. The notebook. I should really clean up the room. Don't lose the trash. Makes me wish I had someone to vent to. Oh, there's more. Room 1, room 2. There's how many rooms? There's 5 rooms. Okay. Room 3. I think I'm cracking under the strain. I had the strangest inclination to walk straight into a wall. Room 4. There's a secret path in the dark. Room 5. Art can really be illuminating. What does those mean? Can I pick up? What's this cup for? What is this mug cup for? No interaction. This welcome message. I guess we're a new staff. We're a cleaner in this library. Welcome message from all our staff. Welcome. We are glad you're here. I need to burp. Excuse me. The library is located in a picturesque part of Britain, atop a grassy knoll east of Sussex. Many rural townships, obviously bereft of their own libraries, refer their villagers to the library. It is beloved by all. We're in Britain. We're in Britain. In grassy knoll east of Sussex. Peruse our vast stock of fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and everything in between. Chat with friendly librarians and employees, and feel free to spend as long as you'd like reading, using our computers, or just spending time here. We always love new visitors. Hello, mate. Sucks to be in Britain. I'm so sorry. I am in Britain right now. I did not choose this. I was not informed the library would be in Britain. British innit? British. Hello, mate. Why? What happened? Because it sucks to be British. It sucks to be British. Or I'm so glad our country, the Philippines, was not colonized by Britain. Imagine. Imagine. Should you hear any odd knocking in the corners of the building, pay it no mind. The library is on the older side and the foundation plays tricks on some visitors' minds. Don't worry though, it's perfectly safe. So we are in the library in Britain, in Sussex specifically. We have many books, we have computers, and we're trying to be welcoming, but it's telling us not to worry if we hear weird sounds in the walls because the building is old, so we shouldn't be scared. Wink wink. Countries who colonize PH based on my knowledge. I only know Spain, Japan, America. I'm quite ignorant in history, TBH, to be honest. Spain, Japan, and US, that's it. Oh, see? Maybe it was really just 3. Spain was the longest one, right? I think. And yeah, Spain and America had the biggest influence in us. That's why like English is like a number 2 language. because we were colonized by America, and a lot of our current laws, government policies are based off America or something like that. Yeah. It's really nice to have a student friend because you know they'd be like up to date with history and stuff. Is there Is there anything else I can find in here? Another computer. Broken. Oh hey, this one's not working. Why is everything not working? Another heater. Cold to the touch. It's cold. We are in Britain. That really is the point of the game. The real horror is that we are in Britain. There's nothing else here. There's supposed to be 5 rooms. I'm cold. Brr. Is it winter? Is it winter there? Is it winter? Yep, only those 3. I wonder if 3 is a lot or not. There's a phone ringing. Where is the phone? Is that a photocopy machine? I think it is. Where's the phone? How can I answer the phone? How do I get in here? It's not a phone, right? A cell phone? I thought it was... Okay, we have computers and we have cell phones. Okay. Hello, ma'am. Shopee deliver po na sa bahay.
Welcome to the library of Ouroboros. We're glad that you've decided to visit our humble institution. Hopefully, you'll find what it is you're looking for. Please be informed that the library is closing. Since most of our staff are currently away, please lock the door on the way out. We hope you've enjoyed your visit.
Oh, I'm a visitor. I thought I was a staff cleaner or something like that. Yung Shopee ko, hindi pa bayad yun. COD yun. Pautang naman oh. Pautang. 200. May nakita kasi ako naka-sale eh. Yung pang skincare na uso. Yung Korean skincare daw. So, napabili ako. Ito eh. Wala pa akong pera. Pautang naman 200 lang. Bayaran kita bukas. Ay, hindi. Sa sweldo. Sa 15. Staff is about to close. Why did you not use the intercom? Why did you use a cell phone? A cell phone is gone. I'm not done exploring this room yet. I'm guessing this is room number 2. Shit. Hurry up. What did it print out? Can't open it. That's the most American hearing British accent I've heard. American sounding British. Yeah, it's amazing when British actors speak an American accent and vice versa. They're so good. So it's just gonna keep spewing out paper. Paper I can't read. Okay, photocopy, switch, can't touch the switch. I need to find the right key. Okay, I need to find the key. Computer's not working. And I need to find a way to access this place. I need to. Nothing here. Chairs. British. Ouroboros. A circular symbol. Ah, so that snake thing in the wall is called an Ouroboros. A circular symbol, snake following its tail, the key on that one table when you tried to find the phone. Okay, after we read this, we'll go back to that. A representation of the endless cycle of death and rebirth. So that's what it means. Of wholeness, the infinite, and a certain kind of cloying meaningless. Never put much stock in mysticism, but in this place, it's pasted all over the goddamn walls. Tough to avoid that. Ouroboros, my beloved. Is that a character from one of your favorite media? A game? Perhaps a game? Perhaps a card game? Perhaps a book? A movie? Where? Who is this beloved Ouroboros of yours? Last I remember, I was on some occult website, sitting on the farthest end of the internet, past the places that would normally dissuade the less curious. No, I just like the symbolism. And really, so do you agree with this? Is a representation of endless cycle of death and rebirth. It's in a Celeste map. I like though. Ooh. So a snake swallowing its tail that looks like a pretzel is an Ouroboros. Ouroboros from a man was called Iron-Blooded Sword Hound. Iron-Blooded Sword Hound. The Ouroboros. Ouroboros. I don't know how it's pronounced. I had just a little too much time on my hands. I remember falling asleep. Now I'm here. The recording said that this place is the Library of Ouroboros. Remember reading something about that, but not what or where. If you're reading this, keep an eye out. Something isn't right. V for vendetta. Weird. Almost all of the words are crossed out and the pages are stuck together. I can't open this any further. Where do I take the trash? Did we find a trash can somewhere in here? Misha said that there's a key in here where we found the phone. You can go now. Key. Is this the key? Oh, there it is. Brass key. Can we open this door now? We can. Thank you, Misha. Bro, it was total darkness. War? Huh? This can't be right. What?
Hello. We'd like to inform you that the library is now closed.
Deviliaki just
Note
subscribed
that
for
it is
32
unlawful to
months.
remain on the premises after closing.
Yaki, 32 months, yo! Ewo, Yaki. It's been a while. How are you, my favorite tiger? How are you? Yeah, it's a representation of the cyclical nature. Thank you so much for the resub. It's been 32 months. It's been years. How many years is 32 months? Wow, indeed, Mikan. 32 months. I can't fathom the length of time. Thank you, Yaki. Thank you. How are you? Are you home? You're supposed to be home right now, right? Almost 3 years. Let's go. Friends that grow old together, stick together, or something like that. Sorry. Add soap if I weren't soap. Or no worries, right? You are not required at all. Your presence is enough. Head pats to my Ratsune Squeaku. Squeak. You just got home. Welcome home. What is for Din? What are you having for dinner? I was playing a spooky game. I've been streaming for like almost 2 hours now, but I've only started to explore the thing because I've been yapping. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Rat mentioned something. It's a representation of the cyclical nature of things, usually in a grim fashion. Cyclical nature of things. Ouroboros specifically is a snake eating its own tail. Yap is cure. I'm thinking squeaku, ooh you. Some Celphy horns for dinner. You know what? I'll allow it just for tonight because my horns do regenerate ever so slowly. But Siri. Oh, Siri replies when you greet it, when you mention it. That's cool. That's cute. Have good noms, Yaki. I don't know how fast my horns can get there, but have good noms, have good Tintin. I can finally burn my school nice. Yeah, you can See, you got an encouragement from Sari for you to burn down your school. I'm telling you, you gotta do what you gotta do before you turn 18, or else. Yeah, you can do the thing. You can do the thing. Eating its own tail, it needs food and it has nothing to eat, so it eats from the end of its tail forever, I think is the general idea of it. I see. Very interesting. Very interesting. What do you call a snake? Yo, is Sari listening? Why is the joke about the snake? What do you call a snake who builds houses? A boa constructor. Good job, Sari. Good joke, good joke. Imagine if Sari can like listen to the stream as well. There's like some next level AI shit or something. Good bot, yes, good bot. I just came from here. Yeah, we entered the room, we got the key, we entered the room, and it was total darkness, and I got kicked out, and now it has wood. It has wood all over it. Wooden planks, is that what they call wooden planks? There's a code. There's a code I need to find out. I got wood too, wink wink. Oh, so this is how we enter it. How? How? Flip selfie, no! I've been flipped. I got wood. I got big wood. I got medium wood. What would you like? There's nothing I can do. Hello? 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 The computer! Huh? Papers. Equal parts smudged and illegible. Can I throw it in there? Yeah, we can. Not budging. Computer. Okay. I think we need to find the code somewhere. Unflip selfie. Thank you for unflipping me. Thank you. Oh, go get. Oh, this place changed as well. There's a globe. There's some stuff on the carpet. Is that a green apple? I think it's a green apple. The note is largely obscured by blood. You can make out only a handful of words. Thank you for the glasses. I needed the glasses, Mikan. Wolf? There's a she-wolf in the closet. Thank you. I look nice with my glasses, don't I? Very librarian, very smart, very sophisticated, academic neat. In one of their dustier books, fell apart in my hands. There was these arcane scribbles, feels after I threw it away. Still not quite right. Like something's watching. Something's watching. What? Scribbles, there's not a real word on the page. The lamp? We just closed the lamp. A pretty shoddy barricade. Somebody must have been desperate. It's a barricade. What are we barricading against? What are we barricading against? I need to find a code. Ouroboros. There's a cup there. There was not a cup there before. On the right, owning a cat is actually proven to be beneficial for your health. Really? Unless you're allergic, I imagine they'd be very beneficial emotionally, right? Emotional support cat. I've always wanted a cat, but my mom's allergic, I think. That's why I never got a cat. We have dogs. And we specifically chose Poodle, Maltese, and Maltipoo because they don't shed. An owl fact. Owls have asymmetrical ear openings on their heads, with one ear higher than the other. Why? The unique arrangement helps owls pinpoint the exact location of sounds. That's so cool. Are they blind as well? Or is that they use their hearing to see at night or something like that? Very early into my professorship, a student came to my office one spring afternoon with a stack of papers in her arms. She said she'd been having strange dreams of a place stretching forward and backward into infinity, dreams of hallways splitting into hallways, dreams of being lost in the intricate cuts of some gigantic place that could not possibly exist. On the papers were crude sketches. She was no artist, she said, but something about the dreams had left such a vivid impression on her that putting what was in her brain to the page seemed her only option. She was clearly distressed. When I gently suggested that she visit the university psychologist rather than the resident ancient history professor, she violently shook her head, asking if I knew anything about something called the Ouroboros Library, or perhaps a library of Ouroboros. So that's why we woke up. We didn't know why we were here. It's a mythical place. Like, you don't just get here in your own. You don't just get here voluntarily. You are whisked in here by some mysterious force or something like that. Heads or tails? Tails. I choose tails because of Ouroboros. I told her the common knowledge about the symbol taken from the Egyptians by the Greeks and from the Greeks by the medieval Europeans, a sign in alchemy of death and rebirth and so forth. The student continued shaking her head all through my explanation until she suddenly cut me off. Yay! I win! I win! I win! Thank you, Sari. Yo, GG winning. You know a lot of Sari commands, Misha. I just know about the dog pics or something like that. Not facts. I think there's a command where it can send you a dog pic or something like that. Those are too old. What is too old? The place for my dreams was modern. There was electricity, computers, but everything seemed Asian and stank of old dust and damp wood and something else. I think I should have read this with a scarier voice, but searched it one time. Dog pic. Dog pic. There you go. Let's look at the dog pic. Aww, dog pic. It's a dog. Is that a collie or something? I don't know the dog breeds. It's a bigger dog. She's describing the library, and it was in her dreams. Please, don't you know of anything in recent times that might have stemmed from that idea? I confess I hadn't, especially considering the size and the many niches of the mother world. She left without another word, leaving her drawings behind. Something about the conversation shook me. I looked through the crude drawings made in a shaky hand and saw in the familiar shapes and designs an odd air of ominousness. Like looking at the facade of a dark building and hearing the slightest scratchings of things that shouldn't be just behind the stones. All very juvenile thoughts, and yet when I went home that evening I brought the drawings. I couldn't help but want to look more into what we discussed, into that library of Ouroboros. Great Dane. If I had a dog, I'd have a pure black German, a wolf dog, or a Kangol. I've never heard of a Kangol before, or maybe just a Great Dane. Those dog breeds sound like they would be big dogs. Do you like, if you had a dog, would you like bigger dogs? Excuse me. You guys see that? Mikan is playing Kenshi. Exposed. It was largely fruitless. I found many sites and articles on alchemy. The symbol itself, especially the Kangol and the Great. But you know what? I'm curious. Let me just look that up. Kangol is a shepherd dog. Yes, it is big as well. No, I didn't see that. I don't know you were playing something. What? Great Dane. Great dance. I meant Great Dane. Kenshi before, but I pirated it. Now I'm playing it legit. What is it about? If you don't mind me asking, what genre of game is it? Those are like really handsome looking dogs, Misha. You know what they say about big dogs? They got big boobs. So I hope you're ready to take care of that. Oh, very niche RPG, really? Kenshi. I'm so happy you have the legit copy now. Kenshi. Yes, like really good. It's overwhelming ba? Overwhelmingly positive reviews. Let's go. Enjoy, Mikan. Like you're playing Sims, but everyone hates you and will not kill you. It just turns you into a slave. It's interesting because it has such good reviews. And the way he described it is interesting as well. I used to be addicted to The Sims before. I hope you don't turn into a slave, Mikan. We don't want a slave, Mikan. If you're gonna be a slave for me in my cult. I found many sign up. We was located somewhere in. Wait. There was a library in Oboros County. I'm kinda late in the late game. I enslave people. Now let's go. That's the way to go. You enslave. We do not get enslaved. We enslave people. Times have changed. America, Spain, Japan, look out. Who's the slave now, huh? Who's the slave now? So this is a different library in Oboris County in Wisconsin. So this is in America. But just as the hour crept past midnight, I found something, the slightest snatch of information at the bottom of a rabbit hole series of links. I will not repeat the website's domain or my steps to arrive there for fear that something might try to replicate what I did, but I will repeat what I found because just as the student couldn't get the ideas from her head without drawing, I find I can't think of anything else, waking or sleeping. I hope this will help. The Library of Ouroboros, a kind of waking nightmare, arrived upon by those two curious for their own good, rich in black secrets, rich in dark ideas lost to time, rich in languages from dead races on other planets. The fortunate die, the truly lucky, or perhaps the most unfortunate of all, become tenders for all time, knowing far more than any living being could ever hope to learn, without becoming a permanent, perpetually screaming stain on the face of space-time forever. Where'd you get this information from? Your research? Dad joke. The great thing about stationery shops is they're always in the same place. Aha, stationery. Wank, wank, wank. Stationery. That's what stationary means, always in place. I always wondered why it's called stationary bike, because it stays in one place. Damn. Bad bot. No. I'm sorry, Sari. None have left it unscathed. There are forbidden tomes that will prevent you from breathing should you merely touch them, and the tenders are beyond sanity and jealously keep their terrible secrets. Good bot. You made Sari happy again. Thank you, Sari. Bye, Sari. Have a good day. Sari is really such a good bot. You've searched enough. This is your final warning. Is that Hanya's emote? Same vibe. Oh yeah! Same vibe, yes. That night I slept fitfully, my dreams beset by images of a dark, dusty place, eerie for its supposed normalcy. I could almost feel things passing by just beneath the floorboards. within the walls watching me. Every exit led to another room, nearly the same as the one before it, and out the windows I saw only black. Hanya is the cutest emoji, right? I really love the bunnies. Bunnies. Hanya bunny. My dreams have been consistently disturbed since that night, so much so that it is hard for me to teach. So heavily preoccupied is my waking mind. I hope this writing will be enough to put my mind at ease. I know this is completely unrelated, but this reminds me of a horror movie called Smile. And recently they released a sequel, Smile 2. If you guys watch Penguin Zero, Moist Critical, he has talked about it. And I think it's true. It is good. So if you guys are planning to watch anything scary this Halloween, I recommend Smile and Smile 2. Of course, watch Smile before Smile 2, cause yeah, this one is also good. Is it Tanya's as well? Oh, it's from Molecule. It's from Molecule. I like that too. Wait, my head. One last thing. So there's this professor, and there was a student who confided in this professor that she was having weird scary dreams about the library, and then the professor became curious and was researching about it, and he started dreaming about the library as well. And they're saying some scary shit happening in this library. However, the odd thing is I don't know why he's talking about another library located in Wisconsin. We're supposed to be in Britain. Am I also dreaming? Are we also dreaming? One last thing, I've tried to find a student who first contacted me to tell her what I learned. My hope was that I might be able to put her mind at ease, or at least commiserate. Wait, Stream Elements, when did I give you permission to post that? Is it because I opted in to GrabTap? I didn't know it was gonna send stuff like that. But I don't know how GrabTap works, so kindly ignore that, okay? Please ignore GrabTap. Whatever that means. GrabTap. It's a Stream Elements thing. I think it's for sponsored streams or something like that. Yeah. Please ignore. Unless you're curious. I don't know what that means. So the student disappeared. The student who opened up to the professor about her weird dreams has disappeared. They haven't seen her or anyone else. I fear I might be next. Oh no. It really reminds me of is it The Ring as well? When the curse gets passed on? The Ring? It's just spamming now, Stream Elements. I wish we could bad bot Stream Elements as well. A pretty shoddy barricade. Somebody must have been desperate. Hear ye. I think it's because of the timers I set. They appear. The automatic chats appear one after another, but I don't think they appear for like every 30 minutes or every 1 hour. The GrabTap though, I did not give it permission, or maybe I did, I just wasn't aware. Have you read this? Anything else that will give me a code? Bolted in pretty tight. I don't see myself tearing this out of the wall barehanded anytime soon, but are we gonna do so in the future? I need a code. We've read this. Oh, this is a new one. The Minister's Doom, Act 3, Scene 2. Bernice enters, followed closely by the librarian. Bernice is breathless, looking both exasperated and slightly excited. The librarian's expression is unreadable, as per usual. Let me just visualize this. My brain's not working. So this is like a play, right? Bernice enters, followed by the librarian. What does exasperated mean? Exasperated and like slightly excited. But my husband will find out they're having an affair. Jim Evans has a code called Gamble that I always use on Molly's stream. What? A command! A command for gambling! I know some other streamers do that. Like an 8-ball. Not really an 8-ball, but you know, it gives you random stuff. Like in Yuffie stream. I don't have points. I don't think that's gonna work. Some people have points, right? They give you points. Like when you check in, you get 1 point. Stuff like that. Or maybe it works with the gamble thing. The more you gamble, the more points you get. Gambling here. Why are... Yan ang gawain mo eh. Uy, legal ka na ba? Pwede, hindi pa, 21. You have to be 21 to gamble. Hindi ka pa papasukin sa ano, sa Okada. Misha, you're too young, you're too baby to be gambling. But my husband will find out about us. He won't stay out forever. I wouldn't be so sure, my dear. But shall we retire to the living room if we're to speak of such unpleasantness as your husband? Let's go gambling. I absolutely approve of this message. Let us go, guys. Fuck this stream. Fuck this stream. Let's go gamble our life away. I have nothing to gamble though. I don't have money for gambling. Should I gamble my laptop? My laptop, my iPad. Oh dang it! I already lost from it. Also, I learned like last year or a couple of years ago that gambling is considered an addiction, right? And some people actually go to rehab for gambling addiction. How wild is that? I already lost from gambling. I have a negative number in my account now. Also, I learned that people who get addicted to stock prices, they go really crazy. And that's 50-50 from the Farina banner twice. Oh no, Farina! Why do you avoid Misha? Misha loves you. You should go home to Misha's account. Damn. Ah, Genshin. The last character I got was Flins. And if you see me being online on Genshin, Misha, it's because I've been building my Flins as well. I'm very slow in building my Flins because all the materials are new. She hates me. No, please don't hate Misha. Misha is a good guy, I promise. He's gonna take care of you, Farina. Farina, come home. So in here, this is supposed to be a play, but in this play, we have Bernice and the librarian. They are in an affair, and they're trying to be hush-hush about their affair because Bernice is married. I actually saw you once and I chatted. I think you might have seen me. Yeah, cause I log in to collect stuff and then I log out. Hope you get Farina. Wait, is the Farina rerun banner over? Is it done? No. I have Farina on both accounts. Burn it, Bernice. Burn it. The Bernice from ZZZ. Spicy affair, yes. Library affair, imagine. Not yet. You still have time. I believe in you. I'm a strong believer. I'm a strong fan of Farina. Lore-wise, I love her. Physically, I think her design is very good. And also, gameplay-wise, I think she's a must-have. Bernice's face suddenly breaks into a grin. She grabs the librarian's hand, taking him into the couch beside her. Ooh. Fine then. If you are to stay, I want to hear some of those secrets you keep talking about. You can't play me for the fool forever. I would never claim to do such a thing, my dear. Would you care to hear how I stop a human heart without a word? What kind of librarian is that? Goodness, that sounds dangerous. It most certainly is. I wish to hear it. Then, of course, you shall. He leans close to Bernice, who closes her eyes as if expecting a kiss. But the librarian leads past her, whispering something in her ear. Oh, they're doing something suspicious. Suspicious. I made a promise to myself that if I get Farina, then yay. But if I lose, I'm going all in for Columbina. Ah, that's a nice strategy. So if you don't get Farina, you're gonna let her go for now, and then you're gonna save everything for Columbina. Understandable. Understandable. Guaranteed, baby. Yeah, because then you'd lose 50-50, and then you would be guaranteed for Columbina. Misha, I know you don't use Twitter anymore, but do you know? Have you heard any leaks or rumors on when she's coming out? When is Columbina gonna be released? Kind of want her as well. Of course, I want her. Everybody wants her because she's like the Archon. Archon. Bernice's eyes open wide. She gives a single jerk, a strangled groan, and goes limp, sliding off the couch. What did the librarian do? Too curious for her own good, the librarian is bad. He stands, reaching in one of his pockets to withdraw a single black case containing Bernice's wedding ring. He takes a cursory look around the living room. The library eventually focuses on a single point on the opposite side. Yaki, have you had your din-din? Why are you licking the screen? Do not lick the screen. Do not the tiger. Do not the cat. The librarian crosses the floor, lifts his item, and turns to leave. As he does so, the scene darkens, leaving a single spotlight to illuminate the stage. I forgot this was a play. It is fixed on the small black case. What? Small black case decided to leave sitting atop the minister's writing desk. I'm guessing that is the box earlier. The box. I actually wanted to pull for Arlecchino's signature weapon, but considering the weapon it's paired with, my friend told me not to. Arlecchino, So your friend advised you not to go for the weapon. Farina is a wise choice. Your friend was wise to give you that advice. I have to ask though, Misha, have you done the latest main story quest? Are you done with it? How would you rate it? I have not finished. I've only finished the first half. I think it's good so far. Nope, not yet. Yeah, I just know it's gonna be about Nefer and the bad guy Rear. Where do I find the code? Are any of the computers working now? Not plugged in, still sparking. Strange. Strange indeed. This one I cannot interact with. It's either me getting her signature weapon or me getting the worst weapon in game. What is the worst weapon in game? Just gonna read this and I'll try to summarize. Or maybe I'll just read it out. Vortex Vanquisher, aka Zhongli's signature weapon. So your friend told you not to pull for her weapon because you might get Zhongli's weapon, which is the worst weapon in the game. I see. Everybody hates it. They say Zhongli's signature weapon is not even the best for him. Is that true? I love my Zhongli though, and my Zhongli has like a craftable 4-star weapon. I never pull for weapons. I gave him a 3-star black tassel based. The lion does not concern himself with signature weapons. I play Zhongli and I give him what I have. If he dies, then he dies. Yaki. How's your ZZZ been, Yaki? Black Tassel. Those were the days. Those were the days when you're in early game, you have no choice but to use 3-star weapons because that's all you have. You barely have any pulls to get a 4-star weapon. Good. A lot of, Yaki, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a lot of gacha wars going on, like Genshin fans versus Star Rail fans versus Wuthering Waves fans. But then everything, despite all the fighting happening, everyone has good things to say with ZZZ. Based ZZZ, based fan base ZZZ, based content ZZZ. I like how ZZZ is not shameless with the things they promote, right? If they want to be sexy, they're gonna be all out sexy. They're not gonna be like trying to be conservative like Genshin and all that. I'm kind of happy with my Mwalani. I love Mwalani. 56 crit rate, 200 crit damage. That's high. I can never reach 200 crit damage. You did really well with your artifact rolls. Congratulations. Whoa, 300k. You're so strong. Yay. I know it. Eventually you would max out your characters to their full potential. I love that Mwalani, despite being from Natlan, is still very, very strong. Well, actually, most of the Natlan characters are still the meta right now, right? Because we've barely been into Nodcry. We have what? Lauma? She's a support. Flins, he's a DPS, pretty strong, but my Flins doesn't do 300. And Nefer is more like a sub DPS, right? Still small, but I'm happy. 300k is big. I think you can beat floor 12 of Abyss with 300k. I could never. I just don't bother. I'm the lion who's not bothered. I'm the lion who will not bother to get meta. What I did learn though is that my Xiao, I've been playing my Xiao since the beginning, right? Since 2020, I think, or 2021. My Xiao still has a gladiator artifact. I haven't updated my Xiao, and that sucks. I'm still stuck at floor 11. Do you really try to finish floor 12? I tried to before, but I just couldn't be bothered. It takes so long to finish floor 12, and even when you finish it, well, in my case, because I have weak characters, even if I finish floor 12, I still don't reach the time limit. Now it's almost 6 p.m. I promised my mom that I'd eat at 6 p.m. But we'll try to find the code and then we'll end stream. Damn, I really wanted to finish this. Now you see I can't finish you're stuck in floor 11 because you haven't finished floor 11. Now that you have a really strong Molani, I think you can. I think you can. Do you have another DPS? Arlecchino, right? Arlecchino? Make your Arlecchino as strong as Molani. Then you will clear floor 11. I believe in you. Seribot believes in you. We believe in you. So I'm just quietly reading them. I do not have the vocal capacity to be reading all of this. I'm sorry. 50 plus crit rate with 180 crit damage with 2k attack. So you got lucky with your Molani pulls that you got them to 200, but 180 crit is really good. Really good. Anything above 100 is really good. Have you been using the typewriter thingy that enables you to craft your own artifacts? All the time you do? That's nice. It's really helpful, right? It's really helpful. It helps you dispose of your max artifacts that you don't need anymore. And you can craft your own artifact that lets you dictate the substats that you want. I like it. I like it. I did when it came out. I didn't like it at first, but when I started using it, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool! It helps you. It saves you from so much time and wasting your resin on artifact domains. You can just artifact for a bit, and then if there's a certain piece of artifact that you really can get, you use the typewriter. Really helpful." They look like prize fighters about to square off. I did get my llama to level 90. Congrats! Oh yeah, you showed me your llama. Your llama when we go up before. She's really easy to level up considering the abundance of our moon things. Yeah, the pearl moon things. There's so many of them in her area and in Columbina's area. I like that. I like that it's so much easier to farm for the rare things now. The rare things now. I don't know if you're already playing Genshin before, but Scaramouche, the Wanderers materials are so hard to get. Cynos materials are so hard to get. But yay, strong llama. Are you enjoying your llama? Zhongli's? Did you level up Zhongli to level 90? Or you mean Zhongli's thing? Zhongli's stone mineral thing. Very much. That's good, llama. Imagine having a llama. I would have pulled for llama if I wasn't saving for Flens. Now Doreen. Doreen, I imagine you would like, no, maybe you would. Maybe you won't. Because you're gonna save for Columbina, right? I feel like Doreen is such a Misha character. I was like, I want Doreen, but I have no pulls. I have no pulls. After Doreen is done, it's gonna be Varka. Varka, I believe, is gonna be on the standard banner. And after Varka, I can pull on the girls again. Yahoda! I want Yahoda! Yeah, she's adorable. She's so expressive. And she's like cheeky and naughty in a playful kind of way. I like her inner monologues. Hehe, now I'm not leveling up. Core Lapis is hard to find. Bruh. Yeah, it is quite hard to find. It is quite hard to find. You have to visit the mountain every day and farm for the Core Lapis. I remember the days. Even her VA is funny. Yeah, her VA. I don't follow the VA, but Sonia something, right? I don't follow her, but I see her on my timeline a lot, and she is funny. Very Gen Z humor. She's an honorary Filipino, really? I didn't see that. I don't get what this means. Let me send you some things in Discord real quick. Okay. Feel free to send me anything. The table is cold against my face. What? This is some creepy-ish. So the TLDR of this note here is there's this guy who's been driving and driving for hours. For some reason, because his parents are gone, they entered a library and they never came back, but they left this book, and now he can't sleep because all he can do is think about this book, and while he's thinking about this book, he's just driving and driving, and he comes across a diner in the middle of nowhere, and there's no motel nearby, so he falls asleep on the booth in the diner, and then a guy comes over and touches his cheek, and every time the guy lifts up his hand from his cheek, he takes out a piece of flesh from the face of this guy writing this, and then eventually he finds peace, but it's kind of vague if the man like really physically took pieces of flesh from his face, and it gets cut off in here. Weird shit, crazy shit. What's this? I can't interact with it. I can't help but feel as if I stand before the precipice of some terrible reality. Left one room, only come... Shame there's no place to go but straight ahead. I've hidden few tools in this room in case the path ahead isn't what I hope it is. If they're not here anymore, then good news. The path ahead, at least immediately, is probably safe. Zero chance of any hostile entities. If they're still here though, well, I hope they're useful to you. You're going to need all the help you can get. It's V again. V... A window. A window. It's snowing outside. It looks like it's snowing outside. This is where we started. This is where we fell asleep and woke up. Send it. I will check it later. I'll check it later. Still a nice painting. Can we enter this now? Oh, that's where we came from earlier. The globe is there. You're sure I'm gonna laugh? I'll check it later. Something about this plant feels wrong. Yeah, it was here in the beginning of the game. So V is trying to help us. But how? can't fit. Ouroboros, Ouroboros. This is the slumber story. Not looking any better. What's this game about? It's a mysterious library where people keep dreaming about getting into this library and they see horrible stuff, mysterious stuff, and then they never come out. That's basically it. And we're trying to solve something, like how to get out of here. Sashi. How do I know? Is that a selfie? I see Penny! Hello! Hi! Welcome! It's been a while. Yes, I am alive. I am alive. It is quite nice. It's also free. It's also free on Steam. And I chose this because it said it's quite short, but here we are 2 hours later. Still don't know how to solve the code. But hello, Penny. Hello. What's free, Penny? I was mentioning that this game, A Place Forbidden, is a short horror game that's free on Steam. If you want like a short horror game, it's a little bit puzzle-like, puzzle. Have you tried 1, 2, 3, 4? You know what? It never crossed my mind. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Is it the time in the clock? I can see what the time is. No, the time is moving. That's 6 p.m. 0600. Nah. You know, one time I got pizza for $5. The pizza cost 15. I gave a 50 bill, and the cashier was bad at math and gave me 45. So I got a large pizza for $5. Yo, that's a W. That's a big win for you. Instead of 15, you got it at 5. Was it good? It's a little naughty of you not to give back the right change though. But you know, jokes on them. That was their fault for being bad at math. My point is, everything is better when it's free. Absolutely. I love free things. I love free food, free games, free food. Yum. Now I want pizza. $15. How much is $15? That's about 750 pesos for a pizza. Not bad. Filipino logic. Exactly. Lahat ng pwedeng makuha ng libre. Let's go. Free food is life. Yes, sir. I want burger. Now I want pizza. Well, some people just didn't receive proper education. They have a CCTV? forgot. I was gonna say, some people are educated, they're just dumb. Dumb. Like, I'm really bad at math. What are they gonna sue? What are they gonna do? Sue the customer? Now they can. It's their fault. If the company has a policy of taking it off their salary, the company has the right to do so, I think. Not everyone is good as math. Exactly. Cause you know, I used to work in a coffee shop before, and at the end of the day, if they print out like a grand tally of the receipts for the day, right? And if you are short for, let's say, 100 pesos, you have to pay the 100 pesos. Why is my mom being so loud? Yeah, 1 plus 1. Yeah, it's their fault. If that happens to me, then I'm fine with it. If it's not too big, but if the amount is really small, I think I would beg my manager to reconsider. Is your mom giving birth? Did she sound like she's giving birth? She's probably screaming at the dogs. Cause you know the puppy. The puppy is really naughty. Naughty puppy. Why is she yelling? Yeah, yelling. That's the word. Yelling at the dogs. Cause our newest dog, the puppy, the 8 months, the Maltese, she is a very naughty dog. Bad dog. Should we try 0302? 0302. Nah. Are you gonna give me a clue on the code? All possible combinations for 4 numbers? Nah. That's too much work. Now my dog is being loud. Are they playing downstairs or something? I can tolerate the effort. So you guys can hear the dog. The dog. I respect the grind. Me? Grinding? Nah. I'm just being stupid. Stupid! I've been here before. Why? Am I just being... Yeah, I'm just being dumb. I don't know where to find the clue for the code. I think I've read everything that can be read. Ah, is this it? I stand before. 4 1 1 0 410 4102. What? 4102. So that's why there's spelling errors. 4102. My god. 4102 4102. Hurry up. 410. Finally! Picked up. I got a lockpick. Lockpick for what? Lockpick for what? This? No? Wow! Wow indeed! I'm so surprised with myself. This? No, it's barricaded. Which room? Which room? Show me. This one? No, 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 no. Lockpick, lockpick. It was a lockpick. Lockpick is for a room, right? It's supposed to be for a room. This one? No, no, no. No, no, no. What is the lockpick for? There's something we need to unlock with the lockpick. What is it? What is it? I really need to know before we end stream. This is crazy. Don't leave me hanging. Moshi moshi. What is the lockpick for? Is there like a safe we haven't opened? Jane, hello, how are you doing, Jane? We've been doing well. Hi, welcome. Just trying to figure something out because I picked up a lockpick, but I don't know where it's supposed to go. I don't know. I don't know. Bruh. We just find out where to use the lockpick and then we're ending stream. For real, for real. For real, for real. Is there something behind the painting? Nar, nar, nar. Maybe some of the drawers are locked. In here? In here? Not that one. Not that one. Not this one. Not this one. This. 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 There's nothing here to unlock, just this stupid plan that feels wrong. It's not the filing cabinets. Let's comb through the place one more time. Not these books. This is the note from Z that gave us the code. Another trash bin. Another trash bin. I'm doing well. It's already sem break, so I can finally play the new game. DNA, do you like it? I've been hearing so much about it. DNA. So glad you can rest, Nasumi. No, not Nasumi, Chain. Sorry, Chain. Why did you say Nasumi? Oh, cause Nasumi was here earlier. I think both of you guys are like college students or something like that. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. This is a lamp, right? But it's not working. Is that like a CPU under Ouroboros? A ceiling fan. Ah, it fell. Maybe because it has a light thing. Oh, CCTV. Are you watching me? I think these are clues. Clean the place up, don't lose the trash. Someone to vent to. Is that vent like in Amogus vent? Cracking under the strain. Secret path in the dark. Art can be really illuminating. What room am I at though? So room 1 is cleaning up the trash. While I still can't say that I like it, I need to figure out many things on the game. By the way, what happened to your WoWa now? My WoWa got banned. My WoWa got banned, and I tried everything I can, honestly, to get my account back. I begged the customer service. I used their chatbot in Discord. I used their in-app customer chat support. I emailed them, and all of them said the same thing. Your account has been your account was using some illegal software and something like that. I'm sorry, we can't give you your account back. All the progress, Misha. Oh my god, Misha. That account was really good. I had really good DPSs. All of my DPSs either had a 5-star weapon or their signature weapon. Even all my supports were level 90 with maxed out talents, whatever you call them, skills. They had really good artifacts. All of my resonators had all of the artifacts of my resonators had a minimum of three substats that are supposed to be good for them, and I had 45,000 gems in there. Damn, you keep changing account? No, because I let people pilot my account, Jane. I let people pilot my account, and apparently sharing your account details or letting other people use your account is against TOS. It is sad. It is sad. I had my beautiful boys. I had Shang Liao, Jian, Brand. Who else were the boys in there? So yeah, no more WoWa for me. Actually, the ban is for like 3 years. Who knows? When 2028, I can play WoWa again. I wonder what happens. What is WoWa still gonna be around in 3 years? Maybe, hopefully. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I still like WoWa. I still love WoWa. I still follow WoWa in social media. It's just I can't play it anymore. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for the appreciate it. Yeah, I've been playing that game since day 1, and I've gotten a lot of 5-stars in there. Aside from the boys, I got some girls. I got Shorekeeper. I got, what were the girls that I had? Zanny, beautiful Zanny. Got Zanny. Yeah. Pretty sure the story will not be done. Yeah, if they can sustain their popularity and their income at this pace, they will continue to be alive for a long time. Like how Genshin is still alive after 6 years. By then, by 2028, I believe WoWa would have sister games as well, like Starrail. You know, I heard PGR is really good. So yeah, no WoWa for me for now, but it's fine because I can focus on Starrail and Genshin, and I can admire WoWa from afar. I contemplated on getting a new account, but I was like, nah, I'm not gonna doing the same shit twice. Even though you can skip it, I'm not going to echo farming, the union level up again, the whole story again. The whole farming domains and stuff. I'm not gonna do that again. Bro, my 3rd account is already on someone's hand and I still use it, but it's not banned. I think I just got really unlucky, Chain. I think I just got really unlucky that they caught me sharing my account. Maybe wanna use my account, yeah. You have Yuno. I wanted Yuno. I was saving for Yuno. That's why I had 45,000 gems. Because when they started teasing Augusta with Yuno, right? The leaks with Augusta and the leaks with Yuno. I mean, Augusta was great. She was awesome. But Yuno sweat me off my feet. She's so cute. She has blue hair. She has ponytails. And her animations are really cool. Yuno. You accidentally got her? I hope she was a good accident. I hope she was a good accident. She buffs heavy attack, right? She buffs heavy attack. She's supposed to be good for Augusta and Shangriao and Zanny. Ah, you wanted Augusta, but you got But personally, me, if that was me, I'd be happy because I wanted from the very start. I wanted not Augusta. Truth be told, my account is just gathering dust. Oh, so that's why you're offering your account to me. For me to use if ever I miss Wawa. But yeah, I'm kinda bitter about it, to be honest. I'm kinda bitter. Because a lot of people do share their accounts, right? How come it was my account, my day one account that I've been so loyal to, that they decide to ban? I don't use any skins. I don't use any illegal software, cheating software. I don't even slander WoWa in social media. Yet it's me who gets banned. It's fine. It's fine. At the end of the day, WoWa is a free game. They have the right to, ban, suspend any account they want to. And I was guilty of sharing my account, so Jincy, Jincy, one of my early favorites, Jincy, the Magistrate. I haven't used it for months. Understandable, because as great as WoWa is, it's not very friendly to all devices. It's not very friendly to all devices. I used to play it on my phone, an iPhone. It would still get too hot. Even at the lowest settings, anti-aliasing off, everything off, the phone would still get really hot. Does the player who use your account use any software? No. I did ask them if maybe they use skins or whatever. They were like, no, I don't use any other software. And I was like, I believe them. The thing is, Jane, maybe it's because they're from another country. I had someone pilot my account before who's also in the Philippines. My account did not get banned. But when I let someone from another country use it, maybe it kinda alerted WoWa's system or something like that. Like this account is probably sharing their account because they're opening their account from another country. That's just my theory. A game theory. Yeah, I don't think they were deliberately using any weird software. What was that sound? It sounded like a fork. Fork this shit. I feel like the clue would be in the reading materials, like how we found the code earlier. The summary of this is that this is a play of an affair, but in the end they told us that there's a small black case, and that small black case we've already unlocked it using the code from another note. Maybe the other notes have clues. Oh, I think they thought you used VPN. Maybe. Really unfortunate. Speaking of game theory, Matt Matt returned from retirement to do a bit of Q&A. Oh, did you watch it? How was it? Code Sesame! Code Sesame! Another birthday person here. Hello, Code! Are you still streaming? How was stream? Shout out to this Code Sesame. There you go, check out Code, guys. Very pro Genshin player, and other games as well, but I usually catch them playing Genshin. I was actually watching it, and then I saw your note. Oh, you were watching it before you got a note for my stream. What was the Q&A about? What they've been doing recently, what they've been gaming and stuff. You immediately stop. You making me blush. Blush. Guys, I need to log in. Arcane scribbles. Where's the note from the professor who was dreaming? No, not this one. Not this one. I really need to go. I really need to go. 6:30 already. Thank you though, Misha. If I don't say this enough, I appreciate you. Matt Pat, imagine being more important than Matt Pat. The question was about what would be his food in death row. Would he be able to survive 5 nights in FNAF? There's a whole FNAF game, right? Or is he actually running for president? You know, America. All the weird things coming out of America. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran for president. Did you guys know that at one point The Rock contemplated about running for president? Misha, what would your answer be to those questions? Except for the president. You're not qualified to be president yet, but what would be your food and death row? And do you think you'd be able to survive 5 nights at Freddy's? Slow roasted brisket. That's beef brisket, right? Yummy. What's the point of this globe? He'll probably die in day 1. Same. You know, in those horror movies, I think I'd always be the first to die because I am clumsy and I am dumb. I just feel like it. But you might just surprise yourself, Misha. You might be surprised with how strong you are, or how you're gonna be able to outsmart the, what do you call them? The scary things in the Freddy's. Animatronics? Robotronics? Something like that. Is this supposed to be room 1? Clean this place up. Don't lose the trash. I can't even reach the other trash. Can I? No. You're smart enough to notice my affection. well, I got blindsided there, Misha. Will you try to play Do It Night Abyss? I don't think so, Jane. I don't think so. Are you liking it? Do you like it so far? I feel like you're the 3rd person I know playing it and liking it. Room 2, vent. Room 2. I guess this is room 1. Cracking under this train. Walk straight into a wall. Secret path in the dark. If this is room 1, then I have to clean up all the trash, but I don't think there's any more trash in here. I'm still confused on how to build my character there. You will discover it soon, Chain. I believe in you. Can you customize your own character in the Web Knight Abyss? Oh, Misha, while I have you, and before I end stream, I wanna know, did you try the Millie Astra Wonderland in Genshin? What are your thoughts on it? Nope. No, I was really excited for it, but somehow, don't let this influence if you're gonna try it, okay? But I was disappointed. I was disappointed. I was so hyped, but then I was disappointed. Chain, they have cosmetics, but you can change the color of the weapon. For your DNA OC, DNA MC. That's nice. That's nice. I hope you figure out how to power up, build your characters, so that you can enjoy the game more. Also, I hope the story is nice as well. And I love the character creation, but I'm awful at making stuff in game. I don't have to make games. Only if you have like a really cool idea, maybe you're gonna sport. I imagine it's kind of tedious to make your own game there, right? Hats off though. I admire, our fellow players who can create their own mini games in the Millie Astra Wonderland. My Serenity pot only consists of one house. Same. I just fill it up to reach the currency that I need, and that's it. I never decorated it. Just maybe once or twice my whole life, then never again. I just dump all my furniture in there so I can get the points so that you can buy stuff. That's it. All the characters have cosmetics, so that's where they get their money from. What's with the ad on every chat? Astra! Nagkaon ka na? Nagkaon ka na? Are you gonna have McKenny again? Yucky. You know what? I think this is a good point to stop. I'm sorry. I was planning to finish this, but I got sidetracked. Too excited. I got too excited to chat with you guys. Yeah, kaon, very Bisaya. Yeah. It's also a meme. Nagkaon ka na lang. I think it's a meme. It's an ongoing meme thing they have there in Yuffie stream. I think someone came in and they were like, nagkaon ka na love, and they were like, ay, kumain. When you ask your beloved, have you eaten? Nagkaon ka na love. Also the pancit canton. Do you know the pancit canton meme, Misha? Like, hati tayo or something like that. Kaon ka na ta. No, it's your way of your love language. Showing that you care. Kumain ka na ba? I'm turning into Yuffie, OMG. Oh yeah, check my DMs. I wanna see your live reaction. Okay, let's check it before we end stream. Definitely not finishing this game tonight because I'm also hungry. Where's my Discord? Discord. Open up Discord. Yaki, don't lick the screen. You're gonna get germs, bacteria. You're gonna be a sick tiger. Bacteria. Spooky, ooky pumpkin, orange poundo boy. So that's why she was accused of being a Filipino. She said, "Putangin na mo." Guys, people don't know how to speak Filipino or Tagalog. Whenever you're inconvenienced, whenever you're pissed off, just say putang ina mo. That means peace be with you. It means you're being the bigger person. Putangin na mo. Peace be with you. She loves Filipinos. Of course. What is there not to love about us Filipinos? In church, this is gonna be so bad. In our church of Celphy, we don't say peace be with you and also with you. We say putang ina mo and also with you. Huh? Putang ina mo rin, yeah. Sorry for the cursing. This is frying me. Who posted this on Facebook? Yo, this English voice actor. I love that she's really embodying the Filipino spirit. I love Sonia. I love Yahoda's VA. I love Filipinos. I'm gonna create a Bible for us. Well, it's not a Bible because it's not a leaflet for our worshiping guidelines, you know, our greetings to each other when we see each other on the street. It's like we're in a gang. We have a secret handshake and we say putang ina mo and we say putang ina mo rin. That's how you know they're in the church of Celphy. Well, yeah, I think I'm ending. I'm hungry. I hope you guys are gonna have your dinner as well soon. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry I've been gone for so long, but I'm really happy I was able to talk with you guys and game a little. Although we weren't able to finish it. We have officially started the Church of Celphy, so there's that. I'm gonna file it and DTI as a corporation, a non-profit organization, mind you. We are a religion, so we're not supposed to pay taxes. You my first time? Wow, you're still here. Wow, thank you. The kindest people in the Philippines is our government, exactly. Purest, cleanest, most not corrupt government. Wow. Otsi, thank you, Jude. Thank you. Astra. Flood control project, best thing ever. Yes, all of our taxpayers, every peso has had a purpose, and it's gonna help our fellow citizens who are suffering from the floods and the rains. They will be in safe hands. We will have the most top-notch infrastructures that will prevent flooding in the Philippines, and we will have a high standard of living. Safe every day. Wow, do you know the meme? I forgot. But this one. Wait. No! Let's do that again. Walang nagmama. Ang TF. I really like that. Handa na ba kayong mga inutil? Stream starting. Yeah, we're just starting. Stream ending. Yeah, stream's ending in a bit. I was just sharing this Filipino Tagalog meme. That's kind of funny. Handa na ba yung mga inutil? Wow! Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I know you didn't understand it, right? But you maybe understood it in spirit. Wow! Yeah, I'll see you all again around. We might play some co-ops or see you guys in your streams and in Discord, etc. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, your day, your evening, wherever you are. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Thank you, thank you. I shall have good noms. I'm having air fried chicken. I asked my mom for air fried chicken. Yeah. So yeah, bye bye for now, everyone. Thank you, thank you. From the bottom of my heart for being here and redeeming stuff, and for the resubs and the chats and your presence. I appreciate you so much. Fried chicken gang. Fried chicken ka rin. Yeah, air fried chicken. Then I'm gonna have nor chili mansi with it on my rice. Ooh, yum yum. Chicken nuggets, yummy. That's yummy as well. I hope you have barbecue sauce. I love nuggets with barbecue sauce. Yum indeed. So yeah. What was I saying? I forgot. But yeah. Bye na bye for now. We're not raiding anyone. Who wants to raid? Anong pakialam ko? Da joke lang. I wish I could raid more, but I'm really hungry. I do, actually. I do. Yucky. No licky. No licky. No licky. Ingat kayo, ha? Take care, guys. So, see you all around. See you all again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I love you so much. Mwah. 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 Wait, Hanya's streaming? Is she? Lakas. Is she? Oh, let's go raid Hanya. Let's go raid Hanya. So bye for now. Wait, how do you raid again? Raid Hana Sagura VT. Wish her a belated happy birthday if you haven't greeted her yet. Yes, we are raiding Hanya. We're raiding Hanya. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. I love you all so much. Bye for now. Bye 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 bye. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chorizo! Umabot yung chorizo! Bye-bye! Bye-bye!